Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. If you like this show, make sure you share it. Tell people about it. This is the first time we've ever asked that. And in the show notes, there's coupon codes. Get some Serenity gummies to help yourself get through the holidays this year. It's the day after Thanksgiving. We have Braydon Barrett on, and we're going to trash talk other country living as an entrepreneur.
It's gonna be a heavily anti-Asian conversation. So if you are Asian, if you're Asian and you're driving, stop listening to the podcast because you're probably already a bad driver anyway. But if you're not Asian and you're driving, you're gonna be triggered and you might drive into a tree. So be careful.
I'm blushing because of how racist that sounded, but I know you're not.
Is this podcast going to get me canceled?
If not, if you don't participate in the things that Aram says.
Right.
Okay. I generally am apologizing often for things that are said. But no, it's not anti-Asian people.
Yeah.
It's anti just on a whim moving to maybe a different country.
Yeah, we can get it. We can get all into it. We can talk about anything you want about it.
Well, I reached out to Brayden, like 6 months ago? Was that about how long you've been gone for, right?
Yeah, we were in Asia for about 7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started a conversation about getting him on the podcast seven months ago.
Specifically where people like the deets. I like the deets.
We were everywhere. Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, Korea, and Hong Kong. So everywhere.
I don't know if this applies to you guys, but every single time I hear the word Malaysia, I think we must kill the Malaysian Prime Minister or whatever from Zoolander.
Oh, I've never seen it.
The Malaysian Prime Minister.
You've never seen Zoolander?
I haven't. No.
The first one? Wow.
You never know when your friends will get killed in a freak gasoline fight accident.
No, you never do. Gasoline fight. So, what was the driving force behind actually moving away?
It was a couple things. Number one, it was why not? That was like that was the biggest reason. Is like why not? My business runs completely online, so there was really no reason to stay in the States. And at that season in life, we were very interested in seeing. We were very interested in seeing what life was like with as little things as possible. At the point in the business, I was very fortunate with the growth. And so I was buying a lot of really cool things, cool watches, cool trucks, all this stuff. And it wasn't making me any happier. It was actually frankly stressing me out because I was always worried when someone's going to crash into my really expensive truck. So we were like, hey, what if we just lived out of 6 suitcases out in Asia? Because we had a vacation out in Thailand and we saw the people there had very little stuff, but they were some of the happiest people I've ever met. And I was like, I want that. And so that was kind of the big thing is we wanted to really downsize, minimize. We lived out of 6 suitcases and we wanted to see what that kind of life was like. We wanted to try raising our son around Asian culture. We wanted him to experience what Asian culture is like, because what we noticed in Asia, it's very child centric. It's very family focused, a lot more than what we've recognized in the States. And we wanted Theo to have that.
How old's your son?
He's 19 months. Okay. So we literally moved out when he was a year old. Not recommended. It was kind of, it was a little tricky, but, yeah. So amongst other things, we just wanted to see what life was like outside of America. You know, we both traveled and we both vacationed out of America, but wanted to see what do other people living outside of America, how do they live? And that's what we wanted to do. So
did you own your home here? Did you keep it? Did you sell it? Like, what was that whole process like getting up and leaving?
We've always rented. And so that was a really fortunate thing for us. I really have no interest in buying any property.
I'm with you, man.
We're very nomadic, and so I just have no interest in buying anything. Nice. So that was nice, just like turning a 30-day notice. Hey, we're done, and then we just hop out. So,
and does your wife work? Does she have a remote business? Like, what's her deal?
She works for me a little bit here and there, just kind of handling the back end and the billing stuff. But her full-time job is being a mom.
Yeah.
So,
which is a fucking hard job too, especially
hardest job in the world.
Yeah,
that's like
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr.
How the fuck would she know? She's not even a mother.
You try being a ginger doing roofing in the middle of the summer. Tell me.
So you're back. So we tried getting this conversation done 7 months ago. We were trying to play with the time changes, and it was just a nightmare. So it's actually kind of cool because the second you came back, I got a DM from you. I'm like, awesome, he's home. I don't love the fact that you cut your hair. I think that it pisses me off that you got rid of the beautiful long hair that was very, very, very jealous for me because I don't have hair, will never have hair, and I'm always jealous of men with long hair. Can we talk about why you cut your hair?
Yeah, it was kind of symbolic. My time out there, I noticed that the whole reason why we went out there was to see a different kind of life. And I noticed that in my own life, I was so worried about how I look. And if you guys, if the viewers don't know, I had very long, beautiful, curly locks. It was like this long mane. It took me years to grow. It was awesome, but it required so much maintenance and so much time to take care of. I mean, I had to go to bed with a bonnet. Like it was a whole thing. Right. So I realized I'm putting so much time and effort to change to look a specific way. I could be putting this time and effort into something that actually matter. Like that extra 30-minute routine in the morning could be spent doing something else. And so shaving my head was kind of symbolic of me giving up material things and how I look to other people and focusing on things that actually matter. And that was, I mean, I spent a lot of time with the Buddhist monks, and that was kind of the same thing. Yeah. So we can talk more about that. That was a really cool experience for me, but that's the whole reason why they wear their clothing and they shave even the women shave their heads is because they do away with how they look to other people and they don't care. And so, that's why I did it.
Interestingly enough, we work in a very aesthetically driven space. Obviously, most of our clients are coming to us for body composition improvement. And we understand that while the aesthetic side of all of this is certainly the starting point, it almost never is the evolution to where you end up. If anything, psychologically, I think the work that Jimmy's doing now is very psychologically driven. I find myself having much more mindset-based conversations with clients over macros, calories, sets, and reps. But your content has always been very, very clear about like, hey, there's an aesthetic component to this that we all want to enjoy. But without nailing these basics, I don't care what you want. It's just not going to happen. So as somebody who was in basically a nomadic state for 7 months, what was your maintenance like while you were away of nutrition, of training? What was your focus? Did you find it to be something that you even cared about anymore?
Yeah. It was actually very interesting. I didn't expect this to happen to me, but I've been training and eating on a plan for 16 years. Yeah. Like I've just been consistent for 16 years. This is the first time in my life that I pretty much stopped training altogether and I stopped eating altogether for at least 3 months.
Like on a plan?
Completely.
Yeah. Well, you didn't stop eating. You definitely ate.
I had like, yeah, no. I had like one meal a day, but no, I didn't like, because my focus at the time just changed so much. I was spending a lot of time at the Buddhist temples and with the monks. And, I frankly just didn't care about how I looked. That season in my life, it was more my mindset and, my spirit. And I realized I spent 16 years building up this body to make it look so good and get likes and shares and whatnot. But up here, it was a mess. When I sat down and I started my first meditation, my first set of ohms, I was like, holy shit, this is a disaster area. No wonder I've been putting this. It was like stepping into somebody, like it was like stepping into like a hoarder's basement, just shit everywhere. And that was my focus for my time in Asia. It was cleaning up my soul and cleaning up my mind. And so with that,
did it just cut out?
Can you hear me still?
I can hear you. He froze up.
Oh, reconnecting.
Sorry guys, my internet went out. Where did you lose me?
Oh, you said after the first set of ohms, you realized it was like a hoarder's basement.
Yeah, and so my mind was just a mess, and so I decided that I wanted to commit to cleaning that mess up, and it was very much worth it to do that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Somebody just the other day was asking me about meditation and like, are you able to meditate And they're like, because I just can't do it. I can't. My mind goes off. And I was like, it's going to go off. It's supposed to go off. It's just recognizing that it is going off and coming back to your breath. I want to hear about your experience with that, going from dumpster fire when you think about meditation to maybe where you are now with that.
Yeah, well, probably similar to like your client. I tried for years to try meditating, and it's the same thing. Like, I can't do it. It feels like a chore. This is super boring. I'm just not, I can't do it for more than 60 seconds before I just want to just scream. I was the same way. It all comes back to the intention. I think it comes back to understanding the purpose of meditation. And I think a lot of people think of meditation as nothingness, as sitting there and doing nothing. And that's definitely part of that. But the intention of meditation is to bring awareness to the present moment. And that might look like doing nothing and thinking of nothing when that's a skill that you're going to have to develop down the road. For me, the first couple of weeks, it was simply just closing my eyes and just being aware of the thoughts that were coming in. I wasn't trying to control anything. Just, what am I currently thinking about right now? Why am I thinking about that? Okay, this thought's coming in now. Where is this coming from? And then just random, just being aware.
Observing your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Versus maybe thinking my thoughts are ruling my life, which I think a lot of people struggle with. It's like my thoughts are controlling everything, ruining everything, where it's like, hey, step outside of that. You're just the observer of your thoughts. That's how I look. Okay.
That's exactly it. Yeah. You're simply just closing your eyes and just watching what's happening. And what you'll notice is after and there's a couple things that you need to set yourself up for this, but after about a week or two, I noticed that when I sat down and got into my position and closed my eyes, I was trying to observe thoughts, but no thoughts were coming to mind. And so that's when I started to figure this out. So there's an observant piece to it. There is a coaching piece to it. Luckily, I had a very powerful guru help me through this. And then there's also almost like a parental piece to it. So your mind and your mind and yourself are two completely different entities. This is how the monks explain it to me. And so you yourself can observe what's going on in your mind, and you yourself will tell the mind what you want it to do. Just like how a child can be disobedient and be rambunctious. It takes patience and love and care to teach that child. It's the same thing with your mind. You're not going to teach a child out of hate and negative actions and forcing them to do something. You teach them through leadership and through love. So yeah, there you go.
I also think that there's a misrepresentation or a misexpectation of things like journaling and meditating that the general population has when it comes to doing these mental health tangible skill sets. Everybody expects there to be an immediate outcome. I mean, that's what we're all driven by, right? Like, we eat better, we're supposed to get a six-pack in a week. We fucking start training, we're supposed to build muscle in a week. We start journaling, and all my mental health problems should start to fade away. And the second I meditate, I should start getting all these introspective realizations that I didn't have. And the hardest part about any of the mental health work, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditative, is you have to kind of just get really good at just being still. And that's the hardest part for most of us. I mean, now that I'm back in therapy and doing all that kind of work, like, the hardest part for me is just sitting for fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand the value of it. Like, one of my homework assignments was go to a park bench and sit for 60 minutes with no phone, nothing else. And I did. And like, I sat there, and again, as people that, especially like us, who tend to be more type A, who expect outcome, it was very difficult to not want to control the situation. But I think relinquishing control is really where the value of meditation or journaling and these kind of things probably comes into play, which I'm sure you can speak to.
It's like the letting go is everything. It's everything. Letting go of even what Brayden was saying, worrying about, having this image of how you're perceived. You've learned, it seems, to let go of other people's perception of you by cutting the hair, not worrying about the body as much and things like that. I mean, it's just a huge component to all of it, letting go.
Yeah. There's a specific meditation that I learned called moksha, which is essentially exactly what you're explaining. Moksha, and I think in English is release or let go. And it's a whole separate meditation in and of itself. It's a whole skill set that you have to develop. And you're right. We are very much, we want to be in control. And the yogis understood this thousands of years ago, that we almost want to work against nature's will. But it's when we can align ourselves with nature's will, karma fall, is when things actually start to align and things actually start to start working. But we have to release our grip in order for that to happen. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, Aram, when he hears release, he thinks hand release, which is all about grip. And I have to sometimes remind him. We're talking about a different kind of release, Aram.
Sure. This is the purpose of my trips to Thailand.
Oh, Jesus God.
There you go.
Oh, my
there
goodness.
You go. Hey, Aram, I was going to ask, what nationality or what ethnicity are you? Your last name?
It's Armenian.
Okay, yeah, I'm Armenian.
Oh, are you really?
I am.
Speak Russian to him, Aram.
Yeah. Barevziz.
Barevziz, yeah. So obviously your last name isn't. So who in your family is?
My father and my father is second generation American. So my grandmother came over from Armenia during the genocide.
No shit! Wow, that's awesome. What was the last name when they came over?
Khazarian.
Okay.
Yeah, she came in with the Khazarians and the Tavoyans and you might know them, the Kardashians. So
we don't count those as real Armenians anymore.
Yeah, we don't. I saw the last name. I was like, I bet he's Armenian. Okay, cool.
My name is like John Smith in Armenia.
Yeah.
Everybody's Aram Gregorian, basically.
Sure.
But I was thinking
about it today, how like everybody still says your name wrong. I was thinking about on my drive home today. I'm like, I'm going to point out how to say Aram's name, even though he looks like Aram.
Aram, yeah.
He's Aram. Say it right.
It's so interesting, dude, that like Jimmy's at this point of evolution. Like I feel like I'm at this point of evolution, and a lot of our clients are starting in like their 30s, their 40s, and they're driven by this desperation to change themselves physically. Mm. And I get it. Like and don't get me wrong, you've walked around 7% body fat and completely jacked and probably felt amazing about that image. But there's only so much of that that's really all that enjoyable. It's like anything else, right? Like you get a raise.
Well, it's just like the money. When he said,
the money,
you buy the stuff and it's like it didn't make him any happier. And we know this with the body. It doesn't make you happier. I mean, it's all short-lived and all that. But it's funny, the longer that we're in the industry, the more and more, I don't know if you've noticed this, Aram, more and more coaches, especially these younger ones. I don't know how old are you, Brayden?
I'm 30.
Dang, he's young. He's for already being at this point in the journey. But because I'm 45, Aram's 57. He looks fantastic for 57.
Growth hormone's a great thing.
He's not 57. But I see these coaches where it's all macros, all this and all that. And then they start talking about all the other stuff, which it's cool to see these coaches kind of start to realize, it's more than macros. It's more than all that.
Has that driven you to change your messaging at all? Like all the stuff you experienced while you were there? Like, I mean, obviously, like the content that you put out is very technically sound and it's always very, very good. Like, actually, I never considered prescribing protein by centimeter in height until I saw you do that. And I'm like, oh, that's genius. Like, I like that actually more than ideal body weight because who the fuck knows what their ideal body weight is?
Yeah.
So I like that idea, but like,
tell us the centimeter in height thing. Just what, 1 gram per centimeter of height?
This is so controversial, but it's 1 gram per centimeter of height is your bare minimum for protein.
I love it. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, for women, it's 0.7 grams per centimeter of height. People hate that because it's different, but if you look at it from, if you're basing your protein requirement off of lean body mass, which you would need to go get a DEXA done for that, the numbers are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
yep,
it just works.
I know, and that's why I love
the research.
Always. The research. Oh God, yeah. Like show me your fucking PubMed article.
Yeah, right. It is just a heuristic. You can use it or you don't use it. It's up to you.
So I'm getting so tired more and more of the research. I'm just tired of it. Like the people where it's like every post they're dying on the cross of research. And I'm like, you're just dismissing maybe somebody's personal experience. Now, if you want to tag somebody who's telling everybody how to live their life based on what they do, sure, I guess, but I don't know. I'm just tired of it.
But who gives a shit about the research when you can't even put 3 meals together a day? Like, I got people that are asking me about creatine, the safety of creatine, and they're drinking 4 times a week. Like, we're missing the point here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
How's anybody talking about the safety of creatine? I still am blown away that that's a topic. And even at the ISSN conference every year, they still have 1 or 2 presentations on creatine. Maybe they could just be like, we're done talking about creatine.
It's a joke on my page that I hate questions about creatine.
Yeah, right?
I hate it.
How is there a question at this point?
Yeah.
I still get it to this day, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Why? Because you've never eaten 4 meals a day. So
Sure.
creatine is the least of your problems. Like, put enough protein and train with an adequate level of intensity, and then maybe your body will need ATP. But right now, it doesn't need any more of it because you're not using it to begin with.
Either way, just take it. Even if you don't work out.
I think I know why. I think I know why people like to talk about this, and I think I know why the content is so popular about this. People, anything that requires a responsibility of your own actions is not something that people want to hear. I think of it like finance. Like, how do we get out of debt and how do we fund a retirement account? We spend more than we make, but people don't like hearing that. They want to hear about crypto. They want to hear about arbitraging their vehicle. Like they want something else. It makes for great.
Having a budget would create disordered financing. So we need to not. Right.
Yeah, that's it.
The American economy would crumble.
I'm going to become a financial anorexic.
Yeah. Right.
So again, like, back to that question of like, so did you start to realize after you started going through this introspection and all the self-reflection that you wanted to change the tone of how you were putting yourself out there, and what did you change?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that because I'm literally in the middle of it right now. So yeah, for years, the majority of my content was around the more technical aspects. We have videos on how to squat correctly, how to deadlift, debunking things here and there. But I'm realizing now that the reason why people haven't changed yet, it has very little to do with how to eat or how to train. It has all to do with their current beliefs and their current identity. So where you are now is the result of hundreds of thousands of decisions, micro decisions that you've made over the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Wait, you think it's my responsibility?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't like to hear that, Brayden.
I know, but you're where you are now, and this is who you are. This is yourself, and in order for you to have this different version of yourself, you are going to have to change internally in order to have that happen. You're going to have to identify as a completely different kind of person, and I've seen that, and this is consistent with you. You've probably seen this with your clients who not only have lost weight and have had a great transformation, but they've kept it off for years. They've changed as a person. They no longer make the same decisions that they made at the beginning. They're a completely different person. And so there's a metamorphosis that has to occur in order for this permanent transformation to happen. And I think I want to talk more about that. And yeah, I'll sprinkle in a couple of the really cool technical science stuff. Sure. But I think the important thing is talking about identity shifting. And that's what happened to me in Asia is my identity shifted. I changed as a person when I came back. So yeah, that's I think what.
But you're not as jacked, so you're not as good.
As you yeah, right. I'm actually a lesser of a man now.
Yeah. I'm gonna unfollow you now. I think too, even with that topic, because as I've dove deep into this stuff for myself, it's not even. I've kind of realized it's not even because it can be scary that you're changing who you are. That you that you're changing into is you that has been there the whole time. It's just the actions that you are and the decisions that you are making on a daily basis are not in line with that true self that is you. You've had these other identities that you've created to protect yourself, to protect your ego, to whatever it is. And you're just acting in line with those aspects of your personality. And as you do this work, you can just kind of, even just that radical acceptance of like, there is that me that I desire to be actually there. I just need to step into it and live that way. Because the person who's constantly wanting to change, they're aware that there is that them inside. Otherwise, they wouldn't constantly be wanting to make this change physically or whatever it might be. So maybe just even that perspective can possibly help somebody. You're not changing who you are. You're like unveiling the you that's been hidden.
Yeah. Rather, like you're still Jimmy. You're still Aram. You're just stepping into the next evolution of Jimmy or Aram. That's all it is.
And I think it's frightening to me that like so many adults stop seeking self-development. Like they get to this like proverbial age and they're like, well, I already have the job and I have the family and I have the possessions, so I got it figured out. Well, no, the fuck you don't, because if you did, A, you wouldn't be unhappy and you wouldn't be unsatisfied, and you'd probably be a lot more joyful and a lot more fulfilled than you're not. You're still a miserable fucker, no matter what you do, no matter how much money you make or how many kids you have or how many homes you buy. And I mean, I see this now, like, you know, there's a reason why people in their 80s and 90s who live active lifestyles, who go paint and surround themselves with community and ride bikes, live with lesser instances of dementia than the 65-year-old who just mailed it in after retirement and sits in front of a TV waiting for the lights to go out. And it's because you're constantly trying to reinvent yourself. And it doesn't mean like you have to do this massive overhaul, because I think that's what people are afraid of. It's like, well, I don't have the bandwidth to change everything. No, and we're not asking you to, but we are asking you to at least look inward and start to identify where some of these problems are. Like, what is preventing you from meal prepping twice a week versus going out and eating 6 meals a week out in a restaurant?
Well, it goes back to letting go. That letting go of that identity. And Aram, we've had over the past few weeks the conversations that we've had. You're going through this letting go of an identity kind of a thing, and that it's people, they're so holding on tight to that identity that they're used to. They want to make this change, but they're holding on so tight to that identity that goes out with friends throughout the week to eat, that goes out on the weekend and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's letting go. It goes back to what Brayden first said with the meditation.
Mm-hmm. Have things changed in your relationship since you started going down this path?
I wouldn't say they've like changed drastically. I think I think I'm much more connected with my family, like my mother, my father, and my siblings now. I found that I'm much more empathetic. I used to be a very apathetic person. Frankly, I was kind of a dick, and but since
probably why I liked you so much.
Yeah, right. I can still be a little bit of a dick, but at least now when I'm speaking with family members or I'm speaking with my wife or even clients and they're having issues, instead of me taking a coach approach and like, well, just do this. Instead, it's more of, well, how do you feel about that decision that you made? How do you think that is going to affect do you think this is going to be helpful, or do you think this is not going to be helpful? And just kind of understanding the mentality behind why they're doing certain things. I had a coaching call with someone the other day who said he's just not motivated to get up and train. I said, why are you not motivated to get up and train? It's because I just don't feel like training. Why do you feel like you don't want to train? He said, because I want to stay in bed. Why do you feel like you want to stay in bed? Well, because staying in bed is comfortable. Why do you feel like staying in bed is comfortable for you? And he goes, Brayden, what are you doing?
It's the 5 whys. The 5 whys. You keep asking why until you get to the root of it. Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from, because I could take the old Brayden approach and just say, well, just work harder, turn on your alarm, and just get up in the morning. But that clearly doesn't work. I mean, that might work for a few days, but we need to get down to the core of it. And we found out with him was, my bed is comfortable. My bed is safe. Out there is dangerous. Out there is scary. Out there is uncomfortable, because he's still new to this whole strength training thing. He's still scared of lifting weights. And so I said, okay, cool. Now that we understand that you're uncomfortable and you're scared of actually going into the gym, we can figure out a plan. And so through some mental work and through kind of remapping out how his training should look, he now is excited. And now he doesn't have a problem getting up in the morning to go train. But had I took that old approach of saying, well, just get up and just work harder, he probably would have burned out. He probably would have quit, because
he would have felt like a failure every time he didn't do it.
Exactly. And he probably wouldn't have felt heard. And so then I failed as a coach. So that, I feel like that's probably the major changes. I'm much more empathetic with the people I talk to now.
So here's where I start to fall and want to start to ask questions that are deeper when it comes to the mental health work, because it takes two people, right? Like it has to take you being willing to have deeper conversations and spending that time on the phone, because these are not voice notes, these are not text messages. This is, we got to pick up the phone and we got to unpack this. So the coach has to be willing to do that level of soft skill work first. Then the door has to be open for the client to be able to step through that door and want to do that work as well. There's a lot of hesitance from clientele to do that because they understand that gets icky, it gets muddy, it starts to stir some shit up. And a lot of people are loving comfort and loving that familiarity, and they're avoiding that discomfort. Is there a way that we can stimulate and keep that space open for people to walk through? And how do we encourage them to walk through into that space? Because we know it's so transformative, but it's very, very scary to do.
It's a good question. It definitely is not everyone is going to be as receptive as that client that I explained. Because I tried this again with somebody else a few months back, and he wasn't having it. It was he shut down every time I tried to ask a question. He was very much like, I don't want to talk about this. And there's only
I'm not here for therapy. I'm here for macros and workout programs.
Right. And I'm not a therapist. And so I'm not qualified to do that.
But that's their perspective when you start asking those questions, you know?
Sure. But you could tell that he wasn't budging. He just wanted to give me my meal plan and get off the phone. So I don't know if I have an answer for that. I think it starts at setting the expectation at the beginning of the coaching client relationship of, hey, we're going to be diving into some communication and mindset stuff because clearly sets, reps, and calories hasn't worked for you in the past. So we're going to have to dive a little bit deep and we're going to have to get vulnerable here in order for this to work. Are you going to be okay with that? That's kind of how my sales calls have been going when I speak with clients and onboarding them, is like setting that level of expectation. We're going to have to get vulnerable here. But I don't have a solid answer for that for you right now.
I think that's perfect. The problem is that, again, it's being able to point out the fact that the technical savvy stuff is not what you're missing. You have it, you just don't deploy it. So what's the resistance piece behind knowing what to do and not doing it? And what are the deeper reasons that are basically creating this disconnect internally? And I mean, I've had that multiple times. I had a person leave my coaching 2 days ago and cited the same thing. Like, I wanted to learn about XYZ from you, but I didn't get it. I'm like, you never agreed to a phone call, not once in 3 months when you were struggling with all these internal issues. You kept sending me training videos that I kept telling you were fine. That wasn't your problem. Your problem was the fact that you were going to bed at 11 and waking up at 3 and having a full day where you had no time for yourself and you were running from thing to thing to avoid your problems. And by avoiding phone calls, you're avoiding your problems yet again. So now you're blaming it on coaching when in reality you just don't want to actually face that there's an internal issue that needs to be unpacked and fixed. And if I was the person who was going to allow that to happen, you missed out on that opportunity as well. So like at some point, people just aren't ready to hear it.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality. It's like you can lead a horse to water, but that's all you can do. And we've had about, since we've started like our online platform, we've had about 500 clients. And I would say about half of them are receptive and they see incredible results. The other half are this same problem. They come in expecting a magic bullet and they don't get that magic bullet. And instead of taking responsibility for their actions or their lack of actions, they blame it on the coach. And we just have, with our business, we have to just be okay with that and do our best to focus on those who do want to show up and not let those who blame us affect our coaching quality and experience.
Which is fucking hard, dude. It's hard not to internalize it. And it's hard not to sit there and blame yourself. It's like, what could I have done? Did I miscommunicate at one point? Was it a fault that I had? And in reality, I think the problem is like avoidance is very easy today. We can bury ourselves in work. We can say shit like gym is my therapy. We can say shit like, well, I get everything else done in my life, so I must be pretty good. But it's like, yeah, but you're still not taking care of yourself at a very baseline level. And if we don't understand why you're not doing that, and if we don't understand why you're afraid of having these conversations, then you're going to continue to be afraid of these conversations.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts and feelings as you think about your messaging changing, knowing that you've built a reputation and a following on social media and now maybe changing your messaging? What kind of thoughts and feelings are stirred up as you venture down that road?
I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm also excited because frankly, I've been talking about the same thing for years. So being able to strike a different kind of conversation and take a kind of a different angle is exciting for me because it's something new that I can write about. It's something new that I can talk about. It might alienate and might piss off a few people that don't want to hear it, and that's fine. I'm not interested in forcing you to listen to me. It's social media. You can do whatever you want, but I'm here for those who do want to hear it. So I'm excited for it.
I think it's awesome. That's when when you know somebody is really coming into themselves, like you can't help but not, you probably feel like you can't not allow yourself to go down this road because you feel so drawn from your transformation over the last 6 months.
Yeah. Like I had to write a few scripts for some videos that I wanted to make, and I couldn't get the words out because I just couldn't feel it anymore. Like it just wasn't. And these are going to be the same quality of videos that like have gotten me a couple million views here and there, but I couldn't get them out. Instead, what I got so motivated to talk about was a 5,000 word newsletter talking about where motivation actually comes from, the mindset behind motivation, and the emotions behind, like, that jazzed me up. I pumped that out in a few hours versus I couldn't get these scripts out talking about squat stance. Like, it just wasn't exciting for me anymore. So
because I think we all realize it doesn't fucking matter. Like it's so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Like most of our followers are not in line at McDonald's 3 meals a day. Most of our followers aren't sitting on the couch 24/7, 365. They have some semblance of an idea of nutrition. They have some basic knowledge that training is good for them. So it's like, if you understand as a human being that these are things that are part of your self-care plan, why the fuck aren't you just able to do them at a bare minimum every single day? Because it doesn't have to, like, none of us are perfect at it. Like, dude, you took however many months off from lifting and nothing bad happened. Like, nothing, like, you didn't die. You didn't become less of a human being. Like, Jimmy's training hasn't been as on point. I've been fucking.
That is a very generous way to describe the way that my training has been over the last 9 months.
Well, dude, like, my fucking nutrition over the last 3 months is like, I track all my nutrition on a calendar, and I don't know that I've hit more than 10 days of compliance in 3 months. And like, at the end of the day, nothing bad happens. Like, the body is pretty goddamn resilient. And if the only reason why we're sitting here and just talking about these very, very superficial cosmetic changes that don't actually change the human being at all, they might buy them some base level initial dopamine based satisfaction, but we know it's not going to be enough of a why for them to continue doing it.
But in what Brayden's describing now, what he's going through is being an example of pursuing his passion.
Right.
You know, it's like, you're not going to change something that you really feel is there to speak about, because that gives you life to speak about those things just for, I got to make sure that I stick with the script of what my IG has been. Like, you're showing by changing your messaging, and you're a living example of pursuing something that you're passionate about and speaking on things that you're passionate about. And then that's the kind of thing that your clients who might be struggling with need. And it might be a little lull from the people that's all they want. For some reason, after 7 years, they still just want to know about squat stance, which is fucking crazy to me. And I don't think I made the post yet, but I was like, I want to make this real. It's like, I just want to thank all the coaches out there that talk about macros, that talk about form and technique, because I don't ever want to fucking talk about that again for the rest of my life. I mean, it's been years since I've talked about any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome. And you could see it as you're saying it. Like, you can't be stopped with what you are going to be doing with your messaging. And I love the fact that you borderline hated your experience, but that was probably the most learning experience ever in Asia.
Again, I'm very grateful for it. It didn't work out in the way that we wanted things to go, but moksha, like, we let it go, and like, it was just time for us to come home. So I'll be going back. Absolutely.
And where's home now?
So we're currently crashing at my parents' place until we move into our own place here in Utah.
Loser.
I know, right? we literally, because we got rid of everything, so we came back carless and homeless. So my parents were like, "Hey, you can crash with us until you go to spot." So we're.
Are they letting your kids stay there too?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We're nice. We're just all in this basement right here. I got my computer set up in this corner of my parents' basement, but we just closed on a place. We'll be moving in next Monday, so we'll have our own spot.
Oh, nice.
So,
well, interestingly enough, like the holiday season, I think, is a time where we start to really. It's almost like it's a mini COVID every year. You know how, like, COVID was very revealing for people's character.
Yeah,
I think the holiday season is the same exact thing. You kind of see where people's stress resilience monitors are, and you see where people are just overburdening themselves and just fucking placating to family that they don't even like. Like, the amount of women that I work with who are like, I can't stand my family. Why the fuck are you hosting them?
Yeah.
It's like they're telling me these horror stories about how like their father, who's a racist bigot, is coming over their house and filling their kids' fucking brains with bullshit. And I'm like, why are you consistently allowing people in your life that you're obligated to like to just continue running the show for you? And then you're wondering why your mental bandwidth is low, and you're wondering why you're so reactive and so emotionally reactive, and you're binge eating at night. It's like, well, yeah, because you're soothing yourself because you're miserable.
Yeah.
Because you haven't set up boundaries and you haven't set up rules and standards that you're upholding people to. You're just becoming
Boundaries.
this. Yeah. So it's like, I would like for you to talk about that aspect of it, because I think we talk about compliance constantly, but I think compliance without boundaries, standards, and values is nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because we've set some pretty massive boundaries with both sides of our family. On my wife's side of the family, we've had to go completely no contact with her brother, which unfortunately he's the whole reason why my wife and I are together. But we had to go no contact with him, and it was the best decision that we've made, because now we don't have to worry about the awkward conversation of Thanksgiving. It's like, is he going to be there? All right, well, we're not going to be there. So it's like, it's just cut and dry, and it sucks, but it's my health and my safety of my family matters more than just keeping a blood connection, an arbitrary blood connection with somebody.
And maybe too that'll create the space needed for potential healing for down the road, versus staying there and constantly having friction. I don't know the situation. I don't know if the healing's on the table, but you never know.
We can get into it, but I hope that he changes from this. I don't think he will, but it's, we're open to mending things if that time ever comes.
Yeah.
So,
but at least you did it. Like, you took the first initiative. I think a lot of people are so afraid of upsetting the status quo that they won't take that action because they're so afraid of what they're going to be seen as. And I'm like,
sure.
What's the point? Like, if you're in your 40s, you got more days behind you than you have in front of you. And if you're still walking around with this idea that anybody's opinion fucking of you matters whatsoever, you're not living life to your greatest potential whatsoever at all.
But that also is what leads to the problems with all the basic stuff, the nutrition, the fitness, the training, all of that.
Yeah.
You have no boundaries with anybody. You're allowing these other people to control your life. That's why we see some people who do go through the process of focusing solely on their body, their nutrition. And in that process, they start to create boundaries like, I'm not drinking, I'm not going out with you in this. And then that's where that change starts happening, because then those boundaries can then start to be created in more personal. I'm not going to take this from these people. I now know who I am. I realize I don't need their acceptance for me to be full or complete. It just doesn't happen that much. But when that stuff happens, you're both nodding. That's the experience that we're like, yes, yes. I got a client who requested a stand-up desk at her office, and she was so afraid. She's like, oh no. I'm like, are you like considered value? She's like, oh, they would like crumble without me. And I'm like, get the desk, but you're so afraid. And then it became a thing. Other people were ordering them, and there was like a waiting list for stand-up desks. But that created so much. But yeah, so it might even be just setting some boundaries in other areas. And then you start to realize, oh, my life doesn't fall apart when I set up those boundaries.
Yeah, life actually tends to get better when you do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I sent out a text message to everybody the other day. I said, no is a complete sentence, and it doesn't require any explanation.
There you go. I love that.
It's just, I've gotten to a point where I used to be the person to placate. I had to be the life of the party, and I had to be the one that showed up for everything, and I had to say yes to everything, and it's draining. And it's completely draining. And even as an extrovert, it's still draining because people don't really reciprocate. Like, you give all this energy out, but you don't really get a lot of it back. And it's not that you should. It's not that you should do it transactionally or with the expectation of a return. But at some point, you have to be able to fill your own cup. And I don't think enough people are actually spending time filling their own cup, but they're just completely emptying it out constantly, especially women, because women tend to always take the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they give to everybody else and then never to themselves at all. And then they wonder why they're standing in the cupboard, in front of the cupboard at 9 o'clock at night, soothing
always
themselves
the cupboard
with food.
It's always the cupboard.
And I get it. I get why. I get why it's nice to be able to shut off for an hour and not have to think about your problems and be able to avoid them. But you wake up tomorrow morning, they're still going to be there.
Sure. I wonder how that is. I wonder why we're more inclined to appease other people than actually take care of ourselves. Have you guys ever read? Go ahead.
No, well, ask first, and then I'll.
Yeah, have you read 12 Rules for Life by chance?
I started it.
It's a deep read, but there's a concept that Jordan Peterson talks about how I think the stat was, I'm going to probably get the number wrong. You can quote me on this. Don't quote me on this. 89% of people don't fulfill their prescription meds at the pharmacy. People aren't taking the medicine that will actually save their lives, but they will close to 100% of them will fulfill the prescription for their pet. So they're more inclined to take care of their pet or someone that they love over their own selves. So it's like, you don't see yourself as redeemable or yourself as worth saving for some reason.
I think a lot of it goes back to the parents and mom or dad guilt and you feeling like you have to put them first. Do this for your mother. Do this. Come on. They do everything for you. Do this for them. Do this for them. And then I think a lot of that stuff comes into our adulthood. Or even just that whole assimilation period in middle school and high school where you're trying to fit in, you're learning how to fit in, and you're adapting so that you can fit in, and then you stay stuck in that world in your brain. I have to constantly make sure I fit in and adapt. I think it goes back to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, good point.
It bleeds into like the whole group think aspect of stuff. Like if I can just fall into a crowd or fall into a group or community of people, then I don't have to be overtly evident, and I can get lost in the shuffle, and people don't have to pay attention to me. And then I'm quiet, as opposed to when I speak up, I'm in front, and that's a scary place to be now, because that's an identity. But that's the transformation only occurs when you become somebody who speaks their piece and who speaks their truth, and
then you can go back to being the quiet person in peace. Yep. Like that's the thing. It's like there's so much resistance at the beginning. Setting those boundaries with your brother-in-law was probably brutal and scary to a point like, fuck, we're actually going to tell my family we're not showing up. If he's going to be there, this can be a tough, scary thing. But then there's like this peace that comes along. You can be the quiet person, and you're not quiet to blend in. You're quiet because you don't even identify with the crowd of people around you.
I don't have anything to say. There's nothing to say.
Yeah.
I hope that at some point somebody can come out with, obviously like Casey Joe has a health mindset certification course, and there's some other people like Lisa Lewis does a good job of the soft skill stuff. But I don't think we have enough coaches in the space that are good enough at tackling these types of issues and having these types of conversations.
You want to know why?
Because they're all fucked up too.
Because they're coping themselves. And this stuff is hard to coach.
Yeah, and it's well, the soft skill, like it's not hard. Like, I could teach a fucking puppy about macros. That's not the hard part. I don't think anybody is void of information. I've just started playing around with ChatGPT a few weeks ago, and I just started to realize its power. And I've been having a lot of fun with just like prompting it stuff, and then going into rabbit holes in science and like reteaching myself concepts scientifically. But we can find information in seconds. And if anybody really needed to figure out anything about nutrition, anything about fitness, they don't have to pay us at all.
No.
But they're not paying us for that. And I truly believe that what they're paying us for is they're paying us for the space to be better, for the opportunity to have conversations that they're not going to have with anybody else, and for us to be available to them when they want to have those conversations. And I think as coaches, if we don't encourage that, then we're just another fucking macro prescription that's not going to work.
At the same time, it can still then potentially lead down the road of you're the warm, cuddly blanket for them to feel better when they're not feeling good about their health and nutrition decisions. So that's where still it goes back to a lot of this stuff. Like these harder questions have to be asked. Bray, do you see yourself changing something actively with the delivery on this topic? With how you work with people, like creating something where, hey, this is what we're doing, but these are also things that we're going to have to get into, or even like a separate part of your business where like getting into those things. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, actually. So as far as changing our delivery, we're not changing anything, but we are going to be adding some more things. We're going to be adding.
That's called changing, Brayden.
Okay, fine. We're not amending.
My body didn't change. I just added a lot of body fat to it.
There you go.
You've changed. No.
Yeah. So we're not amending anything.
I know what you're saying.
But yeah, we're adding. We're working. Well, I'm working on, and I'm not a guru by any chance, so I'm not like really qualified to do this. But I'm trying to see how we can tie in meditation and a little bit some of this Sanskrit Buddhism stuff into more of a fitness transformation program, because I doubt that anybody wants to actually sit cross-legged and repeat mantras with me, but
I don't think they have the hip mobility for it.
Probably not. No,
they can sit in a chair and tighten their perineum.
You should see some of these guys, man. They can get in some crazy freaking positions. I was really struggling. I had to get like a cushion to join these guys. Yeah. I had to there was a little stool that I had to sit on. Yeah. My hips were killing me. But anyway, so I'm trying to like figure out how I can tie this in, because I've truly seen some crazy things happen to me in the last few months, and I know that if I can get more people to be more open and be more mindful, just more aware of what's going on in their head, their transformation is going to come so much more, not effortlessly, but it's just going to be smoother, because they're not trying to fight their identity. They're stepping into an improved version of their identity.
I think a simple way, Brayden, here's a little piece of suggestion or piece of advice. Even something simple at the end of each training session, they have to, and from a scientific standpoint, to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic, to incorporate breath work at the end of every workout. Yeah. And then how that could potentially lead into a habit tracking thing, like, okay, you ready? We're going to do 5 minutes of quiet breathing, kind of a thing. But just to even end the workout with this, and the reason you have to do this is we're going from this to this. They might buy into it. And then it's like, oh, I feel really good after I breathe. And then you're like, ooh, you want to do that in your car before you get out and see your family, which you're always yelling at after work? We're going to do 5 minutes of breath work in the car before you get out of the car, so that could be a way to at least start to incorporate it.
I agree. Yeah, you're right. You've confirmed something that I'm trying to do. Like, sell them what they want, but then give them what they need. Yeah. So like, kind of like hide behind some marketing copy things, but actually give them the things that'll actually help them. So,
well, once they're in the system, and they already trust you, right? Like, you built up enough credibility and authority over the years of showing up consistently and delivering and over delivering. It's just a matter of setting those expectations. Like you said, like, let's have these conversations before you hit pay. I'm at a point now where I was actually talking to somebody today, like, I'm going to do a month trial run with everybody. And if after 3 check-ins, I don't see that you're conforming to the first 3 standards that I have, you're not having a month 2. Like, I'm at a point in my business where I don't need the business. I want it. And it's sucking me dry of who I am. And working with people that just don't want to do the bare minimum is just not something I want to tolerate anymore. And I think as coaches, if we don't stand by these standards, then we're just setting people up for failure anyway.
I agree. You just say they have to go through my 10-week course in order to get back in with you.
That's actually not a bad idea. So now we can cross-pollinate and just share business.
Yeah, you got to finish 10 weeks of Inside Out. We got to work on your head game a little bit, and then come back to the training once you've found your true self.
I've done that where I've paused coaching and been like, if you don't do therapy, I'm not working with you anymore. Yeah. Or just take the money you're paying me and dump it into mental health. At least get 1 session a month, because that's where the work needs to be done right now. The fucking sets and reps and macros ain't doing shit for you anymore.
I just ignore them for 6 weeks and then say, now you know how it feels.
So Aram, are you a one-man band over there, or do you have a team?
Yeah. No, okay. I'm one of the few that has as many clients as I do by myself. But I have a former finance background, so like it's not hard for me to manage people and tasks. Like, I'm somebody who doesn't need to have like staunch systems in place. Like, everything just kind of runs well. But it also obviously limits my scalability. Like, I'm basically, like, where I'm at right now is probably where I'll be for the next 15, 20 years. And I'm fine with that. Like, I don't have a large appetite for money. I want to be able to make enough to continue living in Southern California and doing things the way I want to do it. And I just, I don't need to make 50K months like some of these fucking coaches do, who hire VAs and who hire assistant coaches. I don't want to do that.
I mean, he's fine with 45K months.
Yeah, I'm good with
I'm good with $500,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you live in Southern California.
That's why he's moving more inland.
Yeah, I'm gonna end up in Mexico soon enough. So
Mexico.
There you go.
Honestly, though, like, I've already been looking. So
my uncle's an expat.
There's some great tax things in Mexico that you could get away with.
And if I get plugged into a cartel, forget it. I'll be their lead nutritionist. Perfect.
Networking, man. That's all.
Well, listen,
we're all pushing supplements in one way or another.
Yeah.
There you go.
If I could start doing pure Colombian cocaine instead of creatine, like think about the fat loss response to that.
Dude, think how much work you'd be able to get done.
Oh my! Appetite suppressant, Ozempic. I got something better for you.
Yeah, I mean, your empathy for your clients would go through the roof.
No, it wouldn't. I'd be if I. When I'm on blow,
you're like, just eat your fucking protein. God fucking do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the habit of taking like half a gram of mushrooms every morning now, and that's been helping a lot with empathy and a lot with conversations. But it
took a while, but
I overdid it the other day, and I did like 1.5 grams, and then had to jump on a Zoom.
I remember when I was in 5th grade.
Yeah, I don't have the tolerance or the experience that you have yet, Mr. Guru.
I'm just kidding. That would be a decent amount for like waking up.
Yeah, like I was starting to have some weird thoughts during that conversation. I'm like, okay, guys, I just want to warn you, I am on mushrooms right now, so things get weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, he like had empathy for his dog's paws for no reason.
I just love you so. I just love you so much, man.
I know the grass looks so dry out there. I just wish it would rain.
That's what it felt like. But I'm happy we finally got John. I think this is a lot. I'm actually happy that we got Brayden 3.0 instead of the one that left, because I think this is a much more valid conversation now.
I still think there's a lot of stuff we could dive into with that stuff. We'll have to
do a part 2.
Get them back to like see how you're integrating some of this stuff into the business and how some of the things have changed. And
I'm an open book, man. I'm an open book. I'm happy to come back anytime you want me. So
yeah, I'm excited to see the post, because when I went to your page, the first thing that jumped out were those posts about what you were going through, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. Because I'm not following anybody who's giving technical advice at this point in my life. I'm like, I don't care about the fucking elongated bicep curl, like whatever.
Oh yeah, lengthened partials, man.
Yeah, lengthened partials. I just don't need to see that information all the time. Like, it's nothing new at this point in my life when I see that stuff.
I mean, you don't want to just follow Menno Henselman for the more dumb moments that he keeps putting out.
What's that?
New study: bicep curls trains the bicep.
Oh my god, it's getting to a point now when every time he has his Menno Henselman.
Menno Henselman's. He's a smart guy, but some of his stuff, it's like, what are you doing?
He's like, a new study shows that sleep aids in recovery. Like, no shit.
No.
Yeah. I think Isabel actually said something about it the other day, and I'm like, why is this guy just continuously funding his own research and then pawning it off as something that's important?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Like, nobody cares. We don't even our clients don't even know where their biceps are half the time. So,
yeah, it's good info to have, but yeah. That's, we evolve.
Well, listen, you're not too far from Vegas. If you want to come and hang out at the event that I host in April, please do.
Dude, sign me up, man. I'm a 4-hour drive from Vegas.
So. Perfect. So April 13th.
I'll send you the link.
13th. Yeah, it'll be fun. Jimmy will be there. Everybody will be there.
It's on my birthday. Great.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. What's your April what?
April 15th, tax day.
15th.
Great.
That's nice. My father's. Actually, that's my father's fake birthday, because my mother assigned my father her first son's birthday that died in the womb, and my father got his birthday instead.
Oh,
that's how fucked up my family is. So my father's birthday is a lie.
So there's some things we need to unpack there.
Yeah, him being Aram's father is also a lie. There's a lot going on.
We don't look similar at all, and yeah, he finally told me he was proud of me for the first time since at 40. So we're dealing with some things, Brayden.
There's some things we gotta. Yeah, I want to. Yeah, we should start a second podcast called Unpacking, and it's like I don't want to talk. Yeah, no nutrition. No, we're just unpacking. Yeah. What's going on with Aram and
we can cry, we can sob, we can do the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'll make sure to do 2 grams of mushrooms for that one.
Oh, good idea.
We do still have to do an episode like that, but I can't specifically say that I'm on it that episode.
I will be, because
public school teacher.
Yeah, it's decriminalized. You're fine.
I'll just say we recorded this in a different country where it's legal.
Yeah, you're in the Cayman Islands. You're good.
Yeah. Yeah,
you're fine. That looks perfect, like for the Cayman Islands. Your backdrop says no. There's no Jersey back there whatsoever.
There's a lot of stuff going on back there. Look at the pillow.
That's a mushroom, yeah.
It's an Emerita muscara.
That's great.
Which is not a very psychedelic mushroom. It is the famous one, but it's not very psychedelic. Anyway.
Well, you gonna give him the last questions?
Oh, yeah, God, dude, it's been like a month since we recorded anything. Brayden, we know that you've never listened to a full episode because we've had 2 guests out of 155 plus that actually have. So we know that you do not know what the final question is. We did have one person say they listened to it, but then like, I never heard a final question. I'm like, so you never listened to it, you're a liar, and we caught her in the lie. All that being said, Brayden, we have a final question that we ask all of our guests so we can compare and judge you to all of our former guests.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
It's understandable. Bye.